So glad you could join me today. I want to talk a little bit about blood demands, where the police make a demand for you to provide a sample of your blood for them to try and prove that you're over the legal limit of blood alcohol or have certain drugs in your system which may cause you to be impaired or over a certain drug limit that the criminal code sets out. So if you've watched any of my videos about blowing over the legal limit, you'll know that if the police come upon you, let's say you're swerving on the roadway, they pull you over and you're slurring your speech and you've got an odor of alcohol in your breath, they're entitled to make a demand for an intoxilizer breath sample to be provided at the police station. And then, of course, if you blow over the legal limit there of 80 milligrams of alcohol in 100 milliliters of blood, 80 or over that is, you'll be charged. Now, what if, for example, you're in a car accident and you've broken your ribs and you can't provide a breath sample because obviously you're incapable of blowing, or you're in extreme pain, you've broken bones in your face. This does happen. Obviously, you'll be taken to the hospital. In that situation, if the police have reasonable grounds to believe you're over the legal limit or reasonable grounds to believe you're impaired by alcohol, they are able to make a blood demand. So a doctor or a nurse, pursuant to the blood demand, you'll be demanded that you comply with that. And they'll take that blood demand, the blood sample, and that'll be sent to the Center of Forensic Sciences for testing. And if it shows you're over the legal limit, for example, you'll be charged with blowing over the legal limit. Now, in that situation, you could refuse, of course, a blood demand. The problem there is you're going to be charged with a refusal to provide a blood sample, and that carries the same, if not higher, penalties in some circumstances than impaired driving. I mean, the mandatory minimum fine is $2,000. It can go way up from there in that situation. Let's say if an impaired causing death, well, of course, you're facing years in jail for the impaired and refusing and that sort of thing. So the police have great powers in this regard, that the blood sample is taken by a professional in that situation. So you don't see it too often. It does arise. Of course, we've represented clients in this situation. In this situation, you should provide the sample of blood, because if you don't, you'll be charged with a refusal, and which is not a good thing, and particularly if there's because maybe you'll blow under the legal limit. We hope you do, of course. Now, this also applies for situations where the police suspect, or I should say have grounds, that you are under the influence of drugs. So your ability to operate a motor vehicle is impaired by drugs. In that situation, they can demand a blood sample as well. You're not demanding a breath sample, that's for alcohol. And then, of course, that blood sample, if you comply with it, which you should, that's going to be sent off to the Center of Forensic Sciences. Now, the Center of Forensic Sciences is going to test that blood and determine what, if any, drugs were in your system at that time. The criminal code has per se limits. So if, for example, you have so many milligrams or nanograms of alcohol in your bloodstream, and there's limits under the criminal code, you're going to be charged with that offense. You could also be charged with impaired, because cocaine at certain levels is per se, as an example, going to impair your ability to operate a motor vehicle. So the police have a lot of powers in this regard. They do use them. Blood samples are more rare for alcohol, but it does happen when you're injured. Blood samples for drugs is fairly rare too, because a lot of times the police will just take urine samples, and urine samples don't really prove a heck of a lot. All they show is that you have traces of a drug in your system, which doesn't mean you have it directly in your bloodstream, and you may not be impaired. But I will talk about that in another video, how police take urine, a combination of urine, to show traces of drugs, and they do drug recognition evaluation tests to show that you're impaired by drugs. So there you have it. That's basically a very short and basic primer on blood samples. It's a very complicated area of the law as to whether they have grounds, and our firm does a lot of these type of cases. Thank you for watching our video. We are absolutely committed to bringing you the best possible criminal and DUI educational videos. If you found this video helpful, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you've been charged with a criminal offense in Ontario and require our services, please click on the link in the description below.